Hi, everybody. Welcome to our webinar today. This is Jill Hurston, the marketing department. With that being said, I'd like to introduce Hemant Elhens. He is Synerzip's co-founder and CEO. He will be our moderator today. Hemant, over to you.
Thank you, Jill. Well, greetings, everyone. Welcome to our monthly webinar series. Today's session is a fascinating and stimulating topic of design system for enterprise portfolio UX. I hope all of you are staying healthy and attending to your mental and physical health and people around you in these tough times. So we are just delighted to bring in this bit of a distraction, a stimulating one at that, of our design system. This is a hot topic, and the idea is how to help companies which have complex and enterprise software portfolio of products, how to improve the consistency and usability of each of those software products while also improving the efficiency of the development teams. And this topic of design system is an answer to that, and it's been around for just a couple of years, become popular topic. So it's very timely for us to share this, and I have a very qualified panel to run this through with you, and we'll do this in a format of a panel discussion with people who actually have worked on design system in a real world environment. And I'll let them introduce themselves in a minute. And the way the structure will work is we'll go through, after the introductions, we'll go through the design system overview and how it got applied in a real implementation situation. And then we'll take some questions along the way. Those of you who are regular participants in our webinars, you know that. And then we'll still reserve some time towards the end to take more broader questions right at the end in last 10-15 minutes or so. But you're welcome to keep sending your questions along the way in the Q&A panel, and I as a moderator will filter those questions and bring up those questions which make sense to bring along the way, and then hold off on those that are better answered towards the end. So with that, let me introduce our client person, design manager, Tara, first, and then she will help others introduce. So over to you, Tara.
All right. Well, good afternoon. I'm Tara Long. I'm the Software Design Manager of Pharmacy Solutions for Change Healthcare. You may notice that my email is different from Change Healthcare, and that is because I worked for a company called PDX Inc., and we were acquired by Change Healthcare in June. So most of the experiences in what you'll hear from today actually originated while we were PDX Inc., and now we've kind of come under that Change Healthcare umbrella. But I have been working with Synerzip. We've been a partner at least more than 9 years, because when I started at PDX Inc. 9 years ago in design, we already had teams with Synerzip. So as far as that relationship, it's definitely a well-established partnership for the last 9 years or more. And in the design realm, I guess I'll say we had a need kind of come up 3 years ago or so. Most of our applications are kind of monolithic applications. They're on older technology. They're very functional based. Our niche, like I had kind of mentioned, is pharmacy software. So we have an enterprise suite of solutions for geared towards pharmacies, very centric there. And they need to be functional. They need to be efficient. They don't necessarily need to be flashy. So they are on older technology. But because of advances in technology, one of them being just monitor screen sizes expanding, we did see a need to bring our applications up to newer technologies, lighter platforms, ready for cloud. And that's why we approached our partners, Synerzip, to elicit some help with the UX design and the user experience. And so that's kind of where we'll start our journey here. I'll hand it over to Nadia to introduce herself.
Thanks, Tara. Hi, I'm Anadnya. I'm Senior Product Designer with Synerzip. Me and Harsha, we're working on design system. from for PDX and Change Healthcare. Over to you, Harshita.
Thanks, Anudhya. Hi there, I'm Harshita. I am the lead product designer at Synergip. And today we'd be walking you all through our journey of crafting a design system for PDX/Change Healthcare. Let's get started with a small math problem over here. Let us say there is a project which has come up, which is an MVP. The brief is to create an application for inventory management tool. And the initial brief is to release a configuration feature which is approximately 4 pages. The duration which is expected is one sprint, which would be approximately 2 weeks for this particular situation. And we've defined the user as the administrator. So for a brief like that, an average team size is 6 people, which comprises of 1 designer, 3 developers, 1 test or QA engineer, and 1 product manager. When they start to get to work, the product manager would majorly focus on a successful sprint delivery. They would be gathering the stakeholder requirements. The designer would collaborate with the product manager to gather the stakeholder requirement and to debrief the requirements to follow their entire design process, which would lead them to their final end product, which would be the visual design. Once they have the visual design in place, this would be an iterative process of taking the feedback or iterating on the concept or the solution which was provided. Once the visual design is good to go, it is handed over to the developers who implement the provided design using the tech stack which is being used for the product. And then the test and the QA engineer would write test cases according to the acceptance criteria and would retest the issues, whatever, if anything crops up. In the entire process, there would be times that the team is working on smaller nitty-gritties of the front-end application and not having much time to spend on the actual functional requirements. The time and the effort invested in the example that we have posted is there would be 6 people who would be spending an approximately 480 hours over a period of 2 weeks. And for an MVP, if it takes 12 sprints to accomplish the requirement or to accomplish the delivery, they're investing in all of 6 months. Now imagine if you could do the same amount of work in at least 3 sprints lesser. How would we do that? To do that, it's easier because they would be able to focus more on functionality and would not have to worry about the consistency or about having to collaborate about the front end elements, smaller elements. So what we are claiming over here is that if without a design system, the user or a particular product was taking 12 sprints to be delivered, with a design system in place, you can do that in 9 sprints. How? Because the product can be worked upon much more efficiently. The team can scale on the functionality. There would be a better product delivery, and also there would be consistency all across.
So Harshita, let's amplify this point. This is a very important point you're making here for the audience, that there is a significant efficiency improvement with a design system. Instead of 12 sprints, it's going to take 9 sprints in this example of a typical application, which would have otherwise taken 12 sprints without a design system. So I'd love to hear, Tara, as you've been doing this with our team and across products, how does this sit with what you have experienced in your portfolio products at PDX?
So we have a recent example. We actually were building a new application this past 4 months, actually. And we got a request from the business owner to have the UI done about 3 months faster than it was originally slated. And because we already had the design system pretty well established, we were still finishing up some of the component library, but it was usable. We were able to basically just plug Harshita and Nadia in with that team, come up with the designs using the established guidelines, the design language, right? And then the team could just plug in those components that were already in the library. So I would say, it might have even happened faster for us than what we're showing on the graph, just because this application was brand new starting, we were building, and we were able to use the library that was already there. So we've been able to meet those expedited timelines to deliver UI. And so this, now that we've got an established system, I'd say this is really expedited what we can put out.
Great, thank you. I mean, this is a good hard evidence of a 25% or so kind of improvement in efficiency, while also, of course, like you guys mentioned, improvement in the consistency and the usability of the UX itself, which is also very valuable. So back to you.
Yeah. Okay. So now we have put forward the benefits that would come across with a design system. Let's take a sneak peek at the design system. Take a look at a short video to know more.
Excellent. Well, thank you. This was a good, quick way to provide an overview of what a design system is. Let's take one question that I think someone is asking here, which is, how is this design system that we just covered in this video actually different from a component library and templatized style sheets?
Anuthan, do you want to take that?
Yeah. Design system basically is a combination of components, not the individual components, and having different foundations and the elements which we'll be looking forward in our webinar. in next stages. So that is customizable, and also the development part is different from that, and it is particularly designed for as per the requirement of our enterprise product. So we'll be revealing that as well in next few minutes.
Sounds good. So we'll go more. Maybe this is also time to take a poll for our first poll to see where audience is at. Yeah. So what exactly is a design system? Jill, maybe you can read out the poll just to make sure everybody can.
Sure. We've started a poll. So what is a design system? We're just kind of seeing what everybody's knowledge is. It's either a pattern library, a style guide that helps the developers to design, a collection of reusable components guided by clear standards, or heck, I don't know. That's why I'm attending this webinar.
Right.
And I can see people are voting. Let's just give them a couple seconds.
Yeah.
And then
while,
you have our results.
Okay, you already do. Good. So
yep.
I'll hold on other questions. All right, so 93% people look like collection of reusable components guided by clear standards. And I'll let Anutnya, Tara, and Harshita build upon that as you go through discussing further. So back to you.
So it looks like most of our audience are already aware of a design system.
Yes.
So it's your turn to tackle the tougher components now. Yeah, good.
Yeah. Okay, so let's continue with what a design system would bring to your plate to your product plate. It would bring in consistency because let's say there is a product which is long standing, and over a period of time, there are multiple designers and developers who are working on your product. There are situations when the same elements or the same form fields are being used on multiple pages, and there are chances that it gets copy paste from one page to another, be it for design or for development both. In the process of copy pasting, there could be a scene of missing out a particular parameter, or maybe just one of the colors of the hex code gets updated to something else, which is not done unknowingly. Or over a period of times, if the project has been going on for longer than 6 months and there is a new trend in place, like trends keep changing from gradient to flat design, etc. There are new components or new style guides which keep getting introduced to the product, because of which the the look and feel of your product gets very varied over a period of time. And if you have a design system in place, there is an off-the-shelf library which is available for your usage. You can avoid having multiple looking form elements on your application or on your product. Next, it would enable you for efficiency, because the process of doing design to deployment, the loop of from design to deployment is only achieved once in the process of building a design system. But otherwise, in the process of building a product, this loop gets run for more of functional requirement or more for focusing on the user experience of a product. So not having to talk about the color of the button which was there, or not having to talk about the border radius of a form field could be a good refresher for both the developers or the designers and the entire team member. It would enable you to scale your product more efficiently, because as I already mentioned, the developer and the designer would not go about talking about the nitty-gritties of the front end development process or the design process. They would be actually collaborating on making the UX of the application better. They would be concentrating more on the functional requirements. So what we're trying to put up over here is that investing in a design system will actually reduce your product delivery time. How would they do that? Because if there is consistency, and if you have an off-the-shelf library available for yourself, it is easier to pull a particular component and pull all of them, gather them together in a single in a single layout, and it enables your delivery time. It enables faster delivery time. There is lower technical debt because the copy pasting process is stopped. There is one single source of truth which is available for the usage, and because because your end users of the design system, which is the designers and the developers both, are using your library, there would be a lot less time which is spent on the cleaning of the code or cleaning of the design files. And of course, all of this collaborated together improves the product quality. There is consistency across all your screens, and all your elements on the screen are going to look alike and behave alike.
And that's critical to your end user, as far as their quality of using the application. We have several applications that different users in the pharmacy would access. So along with the main filling system, they might go into the inventory management, they might go into the store-based mail ordering, and the logout option is in a different area of the screen, or this is a click link where they're used to seeing a button for the action, and just them having to basically train on each of those interfaces with the components. And not just the components, but the outline, the framework. We've got the logout here on all of our applications, or the menu is always going to be vertical. We're not doing horizontal. Just to have that already in muscle memory for the user really improves their use of the application. But then reducing the product delivery is huge for our development staff, right? We want to get things out quicker, faster. And that also goes to our customers' satisfaction. They want the functional changes faster, quicker, and we can do that if we're not having to continuously, this button's not the right shape. It should look like this one. It's, this font's not the right font. Why does it look different on this message than that message? So this is well worth the time as far as what we've seen.
Right. So let me ask one question. The consistency, Tara, that you talked about, that it brings about the buttons and the menu layout and all that, is it sometimes a challenge that you're trying to cater to a certain persona for one product, and you want that to be specific user interface or user experience for that persona, and that too much consistency may make it too generic? Is that a challenge you find?
I don't think we've run across that. And another example that I'm just thinking of outside of our products is even just the Microsoft. When you go to 365, you know where to go, and then when the apps load, they have the similar file, edit, view kind of functions. And so, no, I don't think we've run into a thing where the consistency has just really hindered functional, like we've not been able to meet the function. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Back to you, Harshita. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do have a point to add over there for consistency. So having your form elements look similar to each other will not make a difference to the application, because the applications in a product portfolio would be of multiple domains. So there would be an inventory management application, there would be a point of sale, there would be a warehouse management application, all of them, and the end users are also different for all of these. So just having a button which looks same across all your product portfolio is not going to make a difference to the persona that we are talking about.
So you can still tailor the UX for each persona while maintaining.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, correct. Yeah. Okay. So let's take a quick poll here.
So why is it important to create a design system rather than buying one off the shelf? A couple of the responses could be: maintenance is easy, you can create components as per requirements, they're compatible with your legacy backend code, or all of the above.
So while this poll is going on, let me ask, is this even feasible that a company and you guys, Tara at PDX, maybe considered, can buy some sort of a design system and then customize it for your product portfolio, or is it just not a practical way to go about it?
Yeah, so it totally depends on the requirement and till how much customization is required from the product perspective and from the business perspective. So of course, it depends on the needs of the solution which is required to be there.
So, but do companies use that approach, to your knowledge, either of you, that they would take a system and then customize, or just that's not a practical way to go about it?
So there are, so it totally depends on the scope of the project that we are talking about, and also the kind of backend specifications we are looking for. So it is totally normal for somebody to go and find an open source design system and start using it. But also there is no one size fits all situation over here. So according to what customizations we are looking for, what kind of a technology tech stack are we looking to match, and also if it is a legacy product which has a tightly coupled backend already in place and we're looking to migrate it to cloud, it makes a difference in so the business decision changes according to the parameters which we're looking at.
That makes sense. Sounds good. And as the poll sounds like indicates accurately here, our audience is very knowledgeable. That's for all of these above reasons, it makes sense to create your own. Okay.
Yeah. So the customer that we created a design system for is PDX, who's now a subsidiary of Change Healthcare. They are a healthcare technology company headquartered in Nashville. So they have a legacy application in place. They have a big product portfolio which is in place, which is a secure product portfolio, and they're looking to migrate to web, embracing the next gen user interfaces. And considering all the requirements that we have, considering the tech stack that they already have, the kind of backend which is in place since so many years and which is being used by the end users right now across all the applications, we could not rely on one particular design system, and it was easier for us to create one from scratch because we knew the requirements. We started by doing an audit of the product portfolio, and it was easier for us to come up with something which matches all their requirements rather than taking multiple things from multiple design systems and then pulling them together into a single one.
Let's take one question which came a few minutes ago, Harshita, to this point. So did you guys end up spending time upfront to come up with a design system, and whatever duration it took, months and weeks and all that, before you started using it? Or can you talk a little bit about, or did you follow some form of an agile approach where you did a MVP version of the design system and start using it to build other products, and along the way started enhancing the design system itself as you went along? Can you talk about the upfront investment in building a design system, essentially?
Yeah. So I will say that we definitely started designing specifically for our pharmacy filling system. We had a request from a customer to add a piece of function, and we thought this would be great if it was a web app. And we wanted to move that way with the entire application anyways. So we started on that piece, and we didn't do upfront. I'll say we didn't do an upfront library. We didn't do an upfront design system. We were kind of by committee making decisions about what we wanted it to look like. We did do some rework. We did start establishing kind of our concepts. And then once we kind of finished with that project, we went to another application that we were just building, and we established even more concepts and guidelines. And I think it was really during that we decided we needed to have a system, a component library that was reusable across products, because we had, at least 10 applications that we're going to do this web kind of refresh on. And so we kind of said, okay, we need a reusable component library, we need guidelines, we need a design system. And then we kind of shifted focus to kind of do that in parallel of still designing for the application so we could keep development going. And so that's why when we say this has taken us a year, it's really because we have split the focus and had to keep developing our products and also set this library up. So no, we didn't do upfront. We definitely have been doing agile with
That's good
this.
to know.
Yeah.
Would you recommend that as an approach to our audience here, that if they needed a design system, which you said is you build it incrementally as you went along, applying it and using it in real products, and did it in a agile fashion? Is that a recommended approach for building design system?
I would, and I say that because there were things that came up in each application that weren't present in the other ones. In one system we didn't need tables and grids as nearly as much as we did in another that was very data heavy. So in each one we've experienced a need for something else that has just built onto our library. I think it would have been very daunting to say, we need to come up with a system and a library that would encompass everything we need for all of these products. I think that would have been quite an undertaking and quite an investment up front. We experienced some frustrations doing it, putting the cart before the horse type thing, just because we needed to make decisions and there were faster timelines. But ultimately, even the rework has been minimal compared to, I think, what would have been that initial upfront, let's get the whole thing built and then hope we did a good job. Yeah.
Good. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Thank you, Tara. Back to you, Harshita.
Okay. So I think we've talked enough about the business effects and the benefits of a design system, and let's get to the basics of understanding what is a design system now. So a design system comprises of 5 of these elements. First is a design language. So design language is basically setting up a foundation for your design system. It is understanding the product portfolio, the kind of users who are going to be using your design system, or the end users who are going to be embracing your designs at the end. According to that, coming up with a color strategy or typography, wondering if you require accessibility or not, writing styles, etc. Then the next essential part is a design kit. So design kit is basically the design of the components and the anatomy of that design of the designed components. Also mentioning the behavior, the do's and don'ts, how and where and when these components can be used, and what combinations would it be used in. Next is a component library. So component library is basically the developed version of the design kit that we have in place. In our case, with the design system that we created for Nova, for the component library, we had separate exportables because we had a very wide range of products that we had to cater to, and all of them were not using the same or similar tech stack, because of which we had to split our exportables into the CSS, into an exportable CSS library and into a fully functional working component library. Then is a developer sandbox, which is basically the environment for the end users, testing and development and environment. And then is the documentation for both design and development of how to's, when to's, what would be the specifications, and what layouts it would be used, etc. Next, we'd move on to the design process. So this design process is a mix of both design and development. We of course started with research of both for both design and development. So for design, we had a product audit which we had done first initially to understand the variety of components and the variety of layouts which would be required to be incorporated. For development, the research was more about the kind of framework which would be used, which would be compatible with any technology background or backend, any backend it would be compatible with. Next, we went to identify the components which we wanted to be a part of our design system, what behaviors and what features we wanted those components to have. Then was our design and development phase. So initially we started with only designing and getting a review of that done. Only once the design was reviewed and tested with the stakeholders, we got into development of those, which is an iterative process again. So the entire process is a very collaborative process between designers, developers, test engineers, and of course the stakeholders. So once you start working on a design system, the following checklist would be a good to have checklist. So laying a foundation to identify the framework, the color, the typography, I've talked about it enough. Understanding whether we want the product to be WCAG AAA conformance levels compliant. If we are designing for accessibility, understand that, and then accordingly decide your colors and typography and etc. Design language, component list, understanding the patterns and trends, and then design and development collaboration. So this design and development collaboration is a major checklist, I will say, over here, checkpoint over here, because the designers and developers have a different terminology. They need to come up with a common ground of terminology. A very small example I can give is for designers, pixels is the unit of designing, but for responsive design, it gets converted to REM. So these kind of smaller collaborations go a long way when we are working on a design system and also make it even more scalable and flexible. Some popular design systems which we have out there are Material by Google, Atlassian has their own design system, Polaris has by Shopify. There is Carbon design system. There is also a famous Airbnb design system. So all of these giants have already embraced the idea of a design system and are building upon it.
So let's skip, and we had a poll here, but in the interest of time, let's just skip it and keep moving here.
I agree to that, yeah. So over to you, Anup.
Thanks, Arshita. So, so far we have talked about the design system and the business part of it, but this is what we have done in our design system. We call it Nova design system. And till today, we have released 36 components and 20 incremental releases. The duration we were working for is 12 months with a team size of 4, 2 designers and 2 developers. And this Nova design system is adopted by 3 products so far, and we are working towards implementing those for a few more products.
So let's check on this. So Tara, as Anudhya just mentioned, it's been adopted by 3 products so far. Any challenges you saw along the way as new teams adopt what is now an existing design system? Any adoption challenges by new product teams?
Harshita, you might add, or Anudhya. I'm thinking of our most recent product that adopted. I can't think of any real challenges they had, other than there were things that they needed added to the component library, which we had to get done. Other than that, I mean,
it's good to know that this hasn't been a challenge as you scale and expand the adoption across the portfolio of products. Yeah, sounds good.
happy to know that we have covered in research to avoid the challenges, right, Tara?
Yeah, I'd say this one definitely was a very smooth process. The first, the first one we hadn't established the library at all, so we were kind of building as we went. And then the second one wasn't still, we were building and built, as we were going. And really, this last one is the one that has the library was ready, and so they were able to quickly adopt it.
Yeah. So reference to refer to Tara's points. These are the three parts where we have designed and created our design system. From design perspective, it is foundation, component list, and documentation. And from development perspective, we have kept it versatile for UI theme library and exported to component library and a developer storybook as well. So considering the design part, the foundation, which is the base of design system for us, it was accessibility, color grid, interaction, typography, and iconography. I'll walk you all through a few examples of it just to get a glimpse of what we have done. This is a sample colors and we define for our Nova design system. So this while defining these colors, we consider mostly brand colors which the PDX Street Healthcare is using so far throughout all the product portfolios. And we came up with particular hex codes because we face these challenges while collaborating between designers and developers, where there are changes of hex codes like here and there for error messages and for tooltips. So this was pretty much helpful while once we defined colors for it. We also define the usage pattern for same, like what should go for typography, what should be for status color, what should be for background and outline. So gradient were also defined for same. These colors are also defined based on the accessibility WCAG guidelines, considering our products mostly supports and focused on continuing with and maintaining these guidelines. So yes, that was also covered in the same. Moving to the typography, this again is one of the area where developers and designers feel challenging when designer designs something with particular font and that is not getting reflected in the development. Basically, the problem is between the pixels and the properties of the typography. So we defined the font and also the typography elements in different properties, which is from pixel to REM to weight and what should be the line height of each and every font heading till copyright as well. This is again the usage pattern, like I mentioned before, that for each foundation element, we have defined the design as well as the usage pattern of how it should go with which color and what should be the weight of the font and line height of the font for which background. So that was also defined over here. Yeah, so next was the component list. Like it was part of post the research, we defined the component list, how the product line is, and what all common components are used throughout all the our product portfolio, and what will be a repetitive component which will be used for all the products. So this was overall the component list of, or the building blocks we may say, for our products. For each component, we defined a skeleton. So this makes it different, and this is the standardization of a design system where we define each design, anatomy, usage pattern, and code for every component in a design system. Like taking for an example of a button, what all types of buttons are used in a design, in each design or every product, which is primary, secondary, and tertiary. So considering our product language, we defined with the background and without a background how it will look. how should be the hover state of it, and how should be the secondary button look. Moving to the next part, which is the anatomy of it. As I mentioned in my earlier uh, say that in the skeleton, that how we define the anatomy of it, like if there is a spacing defined for typography as well as the button, and the difference between both the buttons, then it is easy for developers to implement on the product as well, and it saves time if the properties are already defined. Next is the storybook screen, where we all our components are uploaded, and developers can drag and drop from here. They can just easily check whether if it is written primary and I change the label of the button to some more, adding some more extra characters, how it will look. It shows upfront, and it is easy for developers to visualize in the product as well. So Tara, you must also have an experience, like while we were designing for buttons, as well as we were designing for the time input field or the date picker. Do you want to share that experience, uh, considering the enterprise product or the time which is format which is used? So we get creative or more creative about how it should look, but the functionality of it is very, very important in that case. So you remember that part where there was a debate on a button design and time picker.
Yeah. We've had, so the way we kind of went about what we were going to choose, we had weekly meetings with a group of folks on the PDX side, who would, give input, give feedback. I like this, I don't like that. So typically, we'd get like a few options, and we'd say, okay, what about this? What about that? And then we were making decisions. So yeah, each week for about an hour, we had quite an opinion session as to what to pick. And it's just kind of, you don't think about the things, but the calendar date picker was a great one. It's like, well, for our users, we need it to be, we're much more looking at a day as opposed to the year view, or even the time. It was like, well, we're not really doing 24-hour, and yes, we would like AM and PM to be an option there as well. So yeah, we had quite a bit of discussion before we, decided on what path we would go. And I think, even some of that, it was like, well, they're doing this in this app already, and we were like, yeah, we're going to do this going forward. So yeah, that was a fun experience.
It was more of a from a point of view where how the actual user is going to use it, and the type of user, and the background, and how they're used to the current system, and how we are changing it from here to whether we are going on a web, or how we should make them comfortable using it. So
Yes.
from there, we will talk about the portfolio transformation, and we would like to hear from Tara. But before that, can we have a quick poll?
Yeah.
So here, why would you invest in a design system? Every product of my company looks different. It's challenging to find time to enhance product experience. We spend a lot of time doing the same things on development, or don't want to compromise on product quality for quick work. Great.
So while
And
we're
let's see.
waiting for the poll results, so we just have 10 more minutes. So I'd love to hear, Tara, what you would share next, and then we will try to leave a few minutes for general questions. So the answer here looks like from the poll is kind of split, huh? Why do you design it in a design system? 0% believe because every product in my company looks different. That's not a reason. That's interesting. 53% said we spend a lot of time doing the same things on development. So that's absolutely true. We gain a lot of efficiency, we heard today, from design system. and 26% we don't want to compromise product quality for quick delivery. So you're right, that makes sense, and 21%. Okay, great. Over to you, Tara. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for my little prompts here. So I will talk a bit quicker. I think we touched on the points of accelerated delivery time. So this latest product was a great example. We started officially on that project January, and we were not expecting to create the user interface until starting in June. We actually have a bulk of the user interface already done. We're just now adding on some more screens. So we were originally not even going to start until June. We were told in March that we needed to go ahead and start it, and we were able to get that up and out by June. Now we're just adding on to it. So by having and with if we didn't have the library, that would have been much more challenging. We did have the team build a screen, the home page, without plugging into the library. And we had already hit challenges where we were going to need to rework and change up things. So that's really why we said, let's plug this in now and have them use it. And there we were able to build the end-to-end kind of flow for this product. So using this library, having guidelines established, there is that work of meeting and discussing things, you know, deciding on the date picker, deciding on toggles, deciding on toasters. But once that's in place, then your guidelines are set up and your delivery time is accelerated. Reducing technical debt. Again, it's not having to create these components in each app, having different developers. For one of our products, we have 10 teams with at least 3 developers on each team. So we've got over 30 hands in the pot writing code. And when it gets to the front end, we've just been able to reduce a lot of rework, a lot of miswork where the font is different than it should be. It's not bold, it's italicized, all of that. We kind of reduce on the front end piece for the technical debt. Quality goes hand in hand with that. We've got these established guidelines and components, so our user experience now is defined. And when we go and put out a release, we're not spending time on the UI. Again, we can use these things that are already established. And then with team collaborations, that library really is our glue. You know, if the component's not there, then we have discussions to get the component added. If the component's there, they're ready to rock and roll, right? They can just go with it. So all of these have helped us kind of move forward in getting our legacy app into the web even more. We are doing that in a phased approach, so we're not just doing a whole revamp at once. We are building screens and adding function into the web as we can for the users to kind of start getting the experience in the web and still have the functions that they need. So all of these have kind of really been benefits of the design system for us. And I'll quickly touch on some challenges. Business-wise, there is the investment. We partnered with CenterZip. We needed additional skill set in this area. There is the time there and the investment to do the design system. Now, like I said, we did it in parallel of other development efforts so that we could still keep putting out what our customers needed while also making this technology change, making things lighter and thinner, you know, for us down the line. But there always is that, what's my return on investment as a business? Our customers weren't necessarily screaming for a flashy front end, but it puts us in a good place to be cloud ready, to be able to deliver faster releases, put things out quicker. So the investment has to be weighed, return on investment. Then there's the user experience. We're going from a thick-based client, Java Swing app, and we're putting it in the web. So most people are familiar with the web. They at least go to checking, they're checking their banking account sites and email sites. But when you change them from an application they're using for their day-to-day functions for work, and then saying this is going to be a revamp and we're putting in web, people tend to really kind of want to shy away from that change. So we've had to kind of mold in those changes. Like I said, with our pharmacy app, we're doing a little bit here and there. So they're becoming more and more accustomed to web until we finally can get the entire app there. For development efforts, delivery, so there is that, we're building the cart right along with running with the horse on delivering and developing products. So we've had some rework where we've said from now on we want the components to be this, and those were just some things that we had to be prepared to accept. Overall, the agile methods kind of worked for us. So those are kind of the business challenges. And then the operations, no challenges. These are the decisions. I mean, this is what I'm really going to call the decisions. What are the frameworks look like? What should the theme be? What browsers are you going to support? On our older applications, we were Internet Explorer, which is kind of like a bad word now. So we had to make some changes and talk with our customers as far as what are we going to support. With going web, we could now be on tablets, and where we're going to be able to do Safari. So these were a lot of decisions that needed to be made, a lot of collaboration with different groups in the organization. And of course, collaboration is great, but it brings its own challenges because you need people's time and their energy. And so those were just some of the other challenges, along with, everyone's opinions are also there. So, yeah. So those were, it's definitely a benefit. It's definitely something that has improved our, delivery, our quality. And then those were some things that we just had to work through.
Yeah, so this is the outcome of a design system we have jotted in 6 points, from the accessibility perspective to how it is easy for sales and marketing, and how the development can be reused and scaled after placing the design system. Also, the collaboration and knowledge sharing is the important part, which is improved in the organization. So moving to the principle, which is a drive principle used in development. Considering the concept of a drive principle, we may say that design system enables the drive principle. So over to you, Hemant.
Yeah, so let's pause here. We had a little bit more time we thought we would have for questions. We don't. So let me just do a quick wrap up here. I really appreciate all of you bringing this hands-on real-world experience of building a design system and actually applying it in the portfolio of software products, which is, I think, a real benefit for many of our audience who are on in the webinar today. So we can help companies do that, and I won't do a commercial here, but we have a number of other questions, but in the interest of time, respecting how much time we said we will take for this, let's pause here, and we're happy to cover any questions offline. Any of you guys have questions on how to get started with design system, what are the deliverables, what are the challenges, we are more than happy to do that at a separate session with you guys, any of you. Okay, so with that, Jill, you can wrap up. I think we'll have this document available to people who registered or registered and attended the webinar. And thank you, especially Tara for joining us from Fort Worth, and from Anudnya and Harshita, middle of the night from Pune. All right.
Yes, thank you, everyone. And again, I'll send out the recording tomorrow.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good day, guys. Bye-bye.